The Atlantic has a way of keeping secrets, deep, dark secrets. And for Captain Lena Hansen, a woman who'd spent her life pulling treasures from its depths, this was the biggest one yet. The call came in at 0400 hours, a ghost ship. The Elysian Voyager, a pinnacle of luxury, found adrift in a fog so thick it felt solid. No distress call, no radar signature, just silence. For a salvage expert like Lina, this was the job of a lifetime. A billion-dollar liner, just waiting to be claimed. But as her salvage vessel, the Tempest, cut through the eerie calm, a knot of unease tightened in her gut. The fog wasn't natural. It clung to the Voyager like a shroud, muffling the world. As they drew closer, the scale of the ship was breathtaking. A floating city, dark and motionless. Boarding was unervingly easy. The gangway was still lowered, an open invitation into the void. Lena and her small crew, Jakob, her seasoned engineer, and Maya, a young, eager diver, stepped onto the deck. The silence was the first thing that hit them. It wasn't just quiet. It was a heavy, oppressive absence of sound. No hum of engines, no chatter of guests, no cry of a seabird. Nothing. The ship felt preserved, a snapshot of a moment just before chaos. On the Lido deck, half-full cocktail glasses sat on tables. In the grand ballroom, sheet music was still on the pianos. In the buffet hall, a lavish spread of food lay untouched, beginning to spoil under the ornate chandeliers. They found the first clue in the bridge. No signs of a struggle, no damage, just abandonment. But then Lena saw it. Scrawled across the pristine navigation console, in what looked like a desperate hurry, were strange, hand-drawn star charts. They were frantic, overlapping, and utterly wrong. They depicted constellations that didn't exist, mapping a course to nowhere. Below them, a single, panicked phrase was etched into the glass. IT, here's the ocean. This was just the beginning. As they ventured deeper into the ship's luxurious guts, they found more. Notes were everywhere, scrawled on cabin doors, etched into mirrors with lipstick, scratched onto the walls of the grand dining room. Don't listen. It's in the sound 48 hours, the same time frame over and over. Whatever happened here, it was fast, and it had happened exactly 2 days ago. The ship's logs were wiped clean, but personal effects told a grim story. They found a child's drawing in a stateroom, a happy family on a beach, but the faces were violently scribbled out. In another cabin, a video camera lay on a bed. Lena pressed play. The footage showed a couple laughing, celebrating their anniversary. Then the man's expression changes. He looks off camera, his eyes wide with a terror Lena had never seen. He starts muttering something about a song, a deep song from below. He grabs his wife, screaming at her that they have to jump, that it's the only way to make the sound stop. The camera falls, and the footage ends with the sound of a splash. Paranoia. Extreme, infectious paranoia. The crew hadn't been taken. They had been driven to leave, to throw themselves into the cold embrace of the Atlantic. A low, resonant sound suddenly echoed through the hull, making the deck plates vibrate. It was the ship's foghorn, but it was deeper, more mournful than any foghorn Lena had ever heard. It seemed to come from the ship itself, a groan of metal and memory. Jakob, her engineer, clutched his head. Did you hear that? The engine room. Something's wrong. Lena hadn't heard anything but the horn, but Jakob was already moving, his face pale. I have to check the pressure valves, he muttered, his eyes darting into the shadows. "It's not right." Lena watched him go, a cold dread seeping into her bones. The ship wasn't empty. The thing that had driven 3,000 souls into the sea was still here, and it was starting to work on her crew. Lena raced back to the bridge. The notes, the charts, the 48-hour timeline, it all had to connect. She ignored the creeping whispers at the edge of her own hearing and focused on the ship's schematics. She was looking for something experimental, something that was activated 2 days ago. And then she found it. A state-of-the-art navigation system, a prototype. It didn't just use satellite data. It used a new form of deep-range sonar, mapping the ocean floor with unparalleled precision. The logs showed it was activated for its first long-range test exactly 48 hours and 15 minutes ago. It wasn't listening to the ocean. It was talking to it, and something had answered. A scream tore through the silence. Maya. Lena sprinted towards the sound, her boots echoing on the metal decks. She found Maya in a tight maintenance corridor, her back pressed against the wall, her eyes wide with terror. "It's in the walls, Lena. I can hear it breathing," she sobbed. "It's coming for us." Lena grabbed her, trying to break through the panic. "Maya, listen to my voice. There's nothing there. It's the ship. It's a sound, a frequency. We have to shut it down." But Maya was too far gone. She shoved Lena away, her face a mask of primal fear. "You're one of them. You wanted to get me." Maya scrambled down the corridor and disappeared into the labyrinthine lower decks. Lena was alone. She had to get to the sonar control room, located deep in the ship's belly. The journey was a descent into madness. The ship groaned around her, the sounds twisting into whispers. Shadows in her peripheral vision seemed to writhe and reach. The air grew thick, heavy with the oppressive energy of thousands of terrified minds. Every creak of the hull was a footstep behind her. Every drip of water was a voice calling her name. She fought it, focusing on the schematics in her mind, on the rhythmic clank of her own footsteps. This is not real. It's a cognitive infection, a weaponized sound. But knowing what it is and surviving it are two very different things. She finally reached the sonar room, a space humming with a low, barely audible frequency that made her teeth ache. The controls were smashed. Someone had destroyed them, ensuring the signal could never be turned off. Then she saw him, Jakob. He stood near a secondary console, a heavy wrench in his hand. His eyes were milky, unfocused. He was methodically smashing the ship's long-range radio. "Can't let you call for help," he mumbled, not even looking at her. "They can't come here. They'll hear it, too. Everyone has to be safe in the water." He was the one. He had been the last crew member of the Voyager to succumb, and in his final moments of lucidity, he tried to quarantine the ship, to destroy any means of communication. Now he was just a vessel for the ship's sickness. He turned, the wrench held high. "The song is so beautiful, Captain. You just have to listen." Lena knew she couldn't fight him. Not him. She had to fight the sound. She dodged his clumsy swing, vaulting over a console. Her eyes scanned the room, desperately searching for another way. And she saw it. The primary sonar emitter override. A manual system, a fail-safe. If she could blast an opposing frequency, a counterpulse, she might be able to disrupt the signal, even for a moment. It was a long shot. The feedback could be deafening, lethal. As Jakob lumbered towards her, muttering about the peace of the deep, Lena slammed her hand down on the activation panel. The room was flooded with an ear-splitting shriek of pure, high-frequency sound. It was like a physical blow. Jakob screamed, clutching his head, and collapsed. The oppressive silence was shattered, replaced by a painful, cleansing noise. Lena stumbled out of the room, her ears ringing, her vision swimming. The whispers were gone. The sense of being watched had vanished. The infection was neutralized, at least for now. She didn't look back. She ran. Up through the decks, past the opulent, empty rooms, and out into the open air. As her boots hit the gangway connecting to the Tempest, she saw it. The fog, the thick, unnatural shroud, was beginning to part. Sunlight, the first she'd seen in what felt like an eternity, pierced through the gloom, illuminating the Elysian Voyager. It was no longer a ghost in the mist, but a massive steel tomb, fully exposed on the calm Atlantic waters. The silence had returned, but it was different now. It wasn't the sound of absence. It was the sound of waiting. Lena cast off the lines, pushing her ship away from the Voyager, leaving the silent, sleeping giant to its lonely vigil, its terrifying secret once again safe with the ocean. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this dive into the unknown, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell for more stories from the deep.